A Surge in Crime, A Nation Grappling with Fear, written by Heather McDonald. America is facing a stark reality, a surge in crime that is shaking the nation to its core. From bustling cities to quiet suburbs, fear has become a constant companion for many Americans. According to the FBI's latest crime statistics, violent crime has spiked across the country. Homicides, shootings, and aggravated assaults are all on the rise. This isn't just a statistical anomaly, it's a crisis impacting real lives every single day. Misguided policies that prioritize the rights of criminals over the safety of law-abiding citizens are to blame. The progressive agenda, with its emphasis on defunding the police, lax sentencing, and decriminalization, has created an environment where criminals feel emboldened. This experiment in social justice has gone horribly wrong, leaving a trail of victims in its wake. We need to empower law enforcement, enforce the law, and hold criminals accountable for their actions. The safety and security of our communities depend on it. We cannot afford to continue down this dangerous path. It's time for action. Our lives depend on it. The progressive push reimagining justice, or inviting chaos. Across the country, a wave of progressive policies has swept through the criminal justice system, promising to address issues like racial bias and mass incarceration. One of the most controversial elements of this progressive push is the call to defund the police. This movement demands a significant reduction in police budgets and a redirection of funds towards social services. Critics argue that defunding the police will lead to fewer officers on the streets, slower response times, and ultimately a more dangerous environment. Another cornerstone of the progressive agenda is bail reform, which seeks to reduce or eliminate cash bail. While advocates argue that bail reform is necessary to create a more equitable justice system, opponents point to alarming increases in recidivism rates. The push for decriminalization represents yet another facet of the progressive approach to criminal justice. Defunding the police, a city in crisis, the case of Minneapolis. Minneapolis, the epicenter of the defund the police movement, offers a stark example of the unintended consequences of this policy. In the wake of George Floyd's tragic death, the city council vowed to dismantle the police department. The decision to slash police funding was met with immediate consequences. Morale within the police department plummeted, with many officers leaving the force or taking early retirement. The result was a significant reduction in the number of officers patrolling the streets of Minneapolis. As the police force dwindled, response times to 911 calls skyrocketed, and the city experienced a dramatic surge in violent crime. The Minneapolis experience serves as a cautionary tale for other cities considering similar measures. The bail reform backlash, when leniency begets lawlessness. Across the country, bail reform measures have been met with a growing backlash as communities grapple with the unintended consequences of these policies. New York City's bail reform law, implemented in 2020, serves as a prime example. The law eliminated cash bail for a wide range of offenses, leading to the release of thousands of individuals back onto the streets. Reports of individuals released without bail committing new offenses, including murder, assault, and robbery, became increasingly common. Law enforcement officials warned that the city was becoming increasingly dangerous. The evidence is clear. Releasing potentially dangerous individuals back onto the streets without any guarantee of their appearance in court is a recipe for disaster. Decriminalization, the experiment unraveling, a look at San Francisco. San Francisco's embrace of decriminalization, particularly for drug offenses and low-level property crimes, has had devastating consequences. The city's lax approach to drug offenses has created a humanitarian crisis. Addicts, often living on the streets, are left to fend for themselves, their lives ravaged by addiction. The city's once pristine streets are now littered with needles and human waste. Shoplifting, car break-ins, and other forms of theft have become so commonplace that residents and business owners alike have become desensitized to the constant threat of crime. The consequences of San Francisco's misguided policies are impossible to ignore. The perils of progressive prosecution, from Portland to Philadelphia. The rise of progressive prosecutors has ushered in a new era of leniency in many cities across the United States. Portland, Oregon, has become a stark example of the perils of progressive prosecution. The city's district attorney has implemented policies that have led to a dramatic decline in prosecutions for a wide range of offenses. Portland has experienced a surge in shootings, homicides, and other violent crimes. Philadelphia has also witnessed the consequences of progressive prosecution, with critics accusing the district attorney of being too lenient on offenders. The experiences of these cities offer valuable lessons. Public safety should not be sacrificed for the sake of criminal justice reform. Misplaced compassion, the victims of well-intentioned policies. In the rush to implement progressive criminal justice reforms, a crucial voice is often lost, the voice of the victim. Consider the case of a shopkeeper whose business is repeatedly targeted by shoplifters. Under the guise of decriminalization, these offenses are often treated as minor infractions, resulting in little to no consequences for the perpetrators. The shopkeeper is left to bear the financial burden of stolen goods and damaged property. Or consider the family of a homicide victim, forced to endure the agony of a trial where the perpetrator, released on bail, shows little remorse. True justice requires a balanced approach, one that recognizes the rights of the accused, while also acknowledging the very real harm inflicted upon victims. It's time to stop prioritizing the well-being of criminals over the safety and security of law-abiding citizens. The disproportionate impact vulnerable communities bear the brunt. The progressive push to reform the criminal justice system often disproportionately impacts low-income minority communities. Reduced police presence often translates to slower response times and fewer patrols. Criminals, emboldened by the lack of law enforcement, are more likely to operate with impunity. The push for decriminalization can also have devastating consequences for vulnerable communities. Open-air drug markets and increased public drug use are particularly acute in low-income neighborhoods. True social justice requires a holistic approach, one that addresses the root causes of crime, while also ensuring that communities are safe. A false dichotomy: public safety versus social justice. The debate surrounding criminal justice reform is often framed as a zero-sum game, a binary choice between public safety and social justice. This false dichotomy ignores the complex realities of crime and punishment. Public safety and social justice are not mutually exclusive goals. Safe communities are essential for fostering economic opportunity and overall well-being. Addressing the root causes of criminal behavior is essential for breaking the cycle of crime. We need a criminal justice system that holds individuals accountable while also providing opportunities for rehabilitation. Finding the balance: a holistic approach to crime reduction. The current state of criminal justice in America demands a fundamental shift in perspective. We must move beyond the simplistic binary of tough on crime versus soft on crime. This approach must prioritize both accountability and rehabilitation. Central to this approach is the need to invest in communities, particularly those disproportionately impacted by crime and poverty. By creating opportunities for upward mobility, we can break the cycle of poverty and violence. At the same time, we must ensure that our criminal justice system is fair, equitable, and effective. Finding the right balance between accountability and compassion is not easy, but it is a challenge we must embrace. Conclusion: restoring security, rebuilding trust. The surge in crime plaguing America is a direct result of misguided policies. The experiment in progressive criminal justice reform has failed, leaving a trail of victims in its wake. It is time to reverse course and restore balance to our justice system. This means recognizing that true justice requires a multifaceted approach. We must empower law enforcement, implement fair sentencing guidelines, and invest in our communities. Above all, we must restore trust in our justice system and prioritize the safety and well-being of all citizens.